start with the market action of the day. The bulls continue to build on yesterday's momentum. So the Nifty and the Sensex ended over 0.5% higher. The Sensex is now comfortably above the 36,000 mark, while the Nifty closed above the 11,000 mark for the first time in a month. The broader markets underperformed the benchmarks, while mid-cap gains were very clearly measured. The Nifty Bank only gained 0.25%. Surbi Upadhyay is here with a wrap of the trading action. Surbi, the bulls held on to their gains very clearly today, but what is the sense in the market as to how sustainable this momentum is?
Another good day where bulls retain control, the Nifty building on its momentum and are finally on the 11,050 mark. Cap action was a little more. So with that, let me now quickly come down to the trends. BPCL, Bajaj Finance, Bajaj Finserv, and some of the heavyweights like Reliance and ITC played their bit for the index. There were gains on Titan as well. Stock was sparkling all through the way. Banks is where the picture got a little more mixed. ICICI Bank, very solid show and good support for the index. SBI in positive territory, but HDFC Bank and Axis Bank, these were some of the more muted trends of the day. There was some profit taking on auto stocks as well, by the way. We saw auto stocks cool off after the mega rally yesterday. So Tata Motors, Maruti, Hero Moto, these were stocks on the lower side. Some profit taking on Z Entertainment, and HUL was also in negative territory, a big heavyweight to take note of. Now we come to the mid-cap action. The breadth was still strong, and there are lots of pockets that are buzzing around. Road contracting companies, for instance, today Dilip Buildcon, Ashoka Buildcon, they had some stellar gains to note. A couple of banks, some of the smaller banks like J&K Bank, South Indian Bank, Indian Bank, these were some impressive gains, as was Spencer Retail. The sugar space is still buzzing. There's some anticipation on more measures on ethanol. So Praj Industries, Balrampur Chini, these stocks were still active. On the losing side on mid-caps, I'd just like to point out Endurance Tech, where there is an open offer, or rather an offer for sale going on from the promoters, and some profit taking on IGL as well as Bharat Forge. To sum things up, the going is still good, though we are getting close to original resistance levels. So let's see how the next 2 days play out.
Okay, fair enough, Surbi. Thanks for joining in with that. Now, the Supreme Court has started hearing a clutch of petitions seeking a review of its verdict into the Rafale fighter jet deal, which gave a clean chit to the government. Appearing for the government, Attorney General K.K. Venugopal made a revelation that the documents pertaining to the deal have been stolen from the Defence Ministry and an investigation is underway. He also, in fact, argued that petitioners are relying on classified documents in violation of the Official Secrets Act. But the Supreme Court bench asked the Attorney General if the government is going to take shelter under the national security when the allegations is of grave crime and corruption. Ashmit Kumar is here to wrap up all the action. Ashmit, sparks flying in the courtroom today.
Indeed, in fact, the question that was before the Apex Court today was that of the Rafale judgment and the other facts that have emerged post the judgment. However, the Attorney General raised a preliminary issue that the file notings that are being relied upon, that in fact were published first by the Hindu and then have been picked up by the petitioners, is in clear violation of the Official Secrets Act. The word that has been used by the government is that these documents have been stolen from the Ministry of Defence officials and that this constitutes a violation of the Official Secrets Act, that they've already initiated criminal proceedings. The Attorney General went on to argue that it's critical that such practices are not encouraged, with the court laying down a precedent by encouraging these documents. So the thrust of the argument of the Attorney General essentially was that, number one, these arguments are stolen, that the petitioners are guilty of criminal acts as far as this particular case is concerned for relying on those file notings, and that the court should not set a precedent by considering these documents. Now, the court, of course, retorted. It made some observations that while the Attorney General has been harping on the issue of national security, can that be a blanket for denying any sort of oversight by the Apex Court? That was one question that was asked of Justice K.M. Joseph. Justice Gogoi as well intervened and said that, can there be a case made whereby the court remains willfully blind towards facts that are brought on record only because they've been stolen or the source of the documents appears to be a little suspect? So again, some tough questions were asked of the Attorney General. Prashant Bhushan, meanwhile, on the other side, has cited various legal precedents that such documents can be allowed, should be allowed, and should be considered by the Apex Court. So clearly a big face-off. What's interesting, however, is that the Apex Court has in fact directed the MOD, the Ministry of Defence, to write on affidavit their official position that these documents have been stolen in as many words. That has to be submitted by tomorrow. The hearing in this case, we understand, is not over, and that they will continue on the 14th of March. Back to you.
All right, Ashmit, but hang on. You've also been tracking the Supreme Court hearing on RBI's Feb 12 circular. What's the update on that case?
Well, today was the first day of the much watch after hearing. That's the February 12th hearing. This has been the February 12th circular, has been a bone of contention for a number of sectors, such as the bar sector, such as the sugar companies. And all in all put together, a batch of about 45 petitions are being heard altogether. Today, day one belonged to Abhishek Manu Singhvi, who appeared for various power companies. The stance that he put forth before the apex court is that February 12 circular, simply speaking, is unconstitutional, is ultra-virus, is illegal, and cannot be maintained. The reason for that essentially is that Abhishek Manu Singhvi argued that the February 12 circular does not take into account the sectoral issue, that this is a one-size-fit-all approach, that it does not account for various factors as to why the loan was taken, why the loans translated into an NPAs, that it does not take into account external factors such as coal linkages, such as clearances, environmental clearances, and that there are various issues where the government itself has caused the delay or the government-related agencies have caused delays, and that the fault is not that of the power producers alone. So this was a broad summary of the arguments that have been exchanged, but let's keep in mind, as I said initially, there are about 45 applicants that need to be heard. So today was merely day one. The hearing, we understand what the council tell us, will stretch across the next couple of weeks. We'll continue to get those updates. But for now, February 12 circular beginning in the apex court.
All right, Ashmit, thanks for breaking that down very clearly for us. Both very, very important cases that we've been tracking from day one. And of course, Ashmit will be on it in the days to come as well. But let's get to the big interview of the day. Margins will not be sacrificed for growth. A categorical assertion from the CEO of Infosys, Salil Parekh. He spoke to Shireen Bhan in what was his first television interview since taking charge last year. Here are the key highlights from that interview. Parekh made it clear that Infosys is targeting a high margin business and will never sacrifice that for growth. He also added that the company will end the current fiscal with margin of 22 to 24%. Parekh also said that the digital business is growing at 15% and is also showing no signs of a slowdown. Parekh went on to say that Infosys company's balance sheet allows it to make a large acquisition, but it will look at small and mid-sized acquisition for now. And finally, the CEO also went on to add that the priority for him is building an organization which is ready for future and which is relevant to clients. Take a look.
We are very clear. We are targeting a high margin business. We are never going to sacrifice margins for growth or for anything. For fiscal 19, we have a guidance 22 to 24. We'll fall well within the guidance. So we are very comfortable. That's what we indicated at the end of the last quarter.
We've just seen NASSCOM hold back its guidance, saying that, look, it doesn't make any sense any longer because there are too many macroeconomic uncertainties. You, on the other hand, have actually upped your guidance from 6 to 8% to almost 8.5 to 9% now. So as you look at the story today, what are your biggest concerns that could impact growth?
So growth, first, we are not giving any view on fiscal 20 yet.
Sure.
So fiscal 19, we are comfortable with 8.5 to 9 on constant currency, and that's how Q4 was rolled out. Now, sort of stepping back a bit and looking at the market, if you look at this digital area that I was describing, one that's growing 30% for us, we shared some data a while ago. The addressable market for that is about 160 billion. That whole market is growing at around 15%. So that market today has shown no sign of slowing. Overall demand for the digital is what I shared. For the rest of the core services, the demand is stable. It's low single digits. That's something we will see how the macro develops. And obviously both of these things can be impacted by macro, depending on where the macro goes. But as of now, as we look at Q4, we've seen a fairly good, robust set of demand, and we're going with that.
Let me ask you about capabilities, because you talked about how demand, in that sense, it's outstripping the kind of capabilities that you currently have. What is the strategy to be able to address that? You talked about hiring and beefing up your internal capabilities, but how much of the beefing up of capabilities is going to be driven inorganically through acquisitions? You've done two, about $75 million one, and the other one was about around that ballpark as well. well. So what's the strategy now as far as acquisitions are concerned? And again, I ask you this in the context of what we've seen happen with Panaya, etc., which have been questions that have been raised to the management on the write down. So when you take these proposals now to the board, what are they asking you that's different from previously?
So the multiple questions in there. I think on the acquisitions, the thinking is, we've laid out clearly our digital agenda. In addition to that, there are other areas of the business which are also doing well. As an example, engineering services. So we will look at acquisitions which fall in these areas, or some mid-size ones which are opportunistic, which overlap some digital and some non-digital. And based on that, we will drive the acquisition agenda. So far, the two we've done are squarely in the digital space. When we take this to the board, what has happened in the past has happened. What this board has supported is the strategy we've put forth for driving the company forward. So as long as we bring an idea to the board which falls within that strategy, some within digital, some overlapping, small to mid-size, the board is open and receptive to it.
So will it continue to be small and mid-size? Is that how you're looking at the approach going forward?
Today we are looking at small and mid-size. We've not looked at anything else, but we have a very strong balance sheet. So nothing precludes us from doing something, not that we're doing something massive, but we can certainly do mid-size. Our balance sheet allows us to do something even larger. At this stage, we're not doing any of that. Our focus is primarily on small and mid-size.
Now, India's unemployment rate has climbed to 7.2% in February, hitting the highest level since September 2016. The data from the Centre for Monitoring Indian Economy also shows that the unemployment rate has risen despite a fall in the number of job seekers. So that's something that is a matter of concern. But here's a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Two stress companies are headed towards resolution under the Inter-Credit or Agreement. This is the first time that we will see a resolution plan meet its desired outcome under this very method. Ritu Singh is here with the details. Ritu, which are these two companies?
Well, of course, this is the first time that under the Inter-Creditor Agreement, a resolution has been reached for two companies, and those are HCC and GMR Chhattisgarh Energy. Now, what exactly is Inter-Creditor Agreement? It came into force last year, where, this agreement is binding on all the lenders of the consortium, and if 66% of the lenders agree to a resolution plan, it becomes binding on all the members, and the dissenting lenders can exit by selling their loans to existing members in the consortium at a negotiated and fair price. Now, we're given to understand that the Oversight Committee of the IBA has cleared two proposals, and therefore these are in the final stages of being cleared. One is HCC, where a debt of 4,800 crore rupees is being restructured along the lines of S4A, which is something that lenders had agreed to before for HCC as well. So half of its debt will be converted into CRPS, or cumulative redeemable preference shares, and the other half will continue to be serviced by the company, which will remain as the sustainable debt on its books. As far as the second case is concerned, we understand that Adani Power has been chosen as the highest bidder by the lenders to buy out GMR Chhattisgarh Energy, and this will be done at a haircut of about 50 to 53%. Broadly, this is the agreement that the lenders have reached. Axis Bank is the lead banker in case of GMR, and ICICI Bank in the case of HCC. So now it is up to the individual boards of the bank to finally ratify these plans.
Okay, Ritu, so that is the first that has been cleared by the Inter-Creditor Agreement. Thanks for joining in with that. Now, the political row over the Balakot Jaish camp strike has intensified amid the opposition demand for proof. To this, Union Minister and former Army Chief V.K. Singh has said that the next time the army undertakes any operations, the opposition should be tied to the aircraft and dropped at the strike site. This so that they can count the number of casualties by themselves. He also retaliated to MP Digvijay Singh's tweet calling the Pulwama attack an accident by tweeting, "Would Rajiv Gandhi's assassination be called an accident?" Listen in.
अगली बार जब भारत कुछ करे तो मुझे लगता है कि विपक्षी जो ये प्रश्न उठाते हैं उनको भी हवाई जहाज के नीचे बांध के ले जाएं, जब बम चलें तो वहाँ से देख लें टारगेट, उसके बाद उनको वहीं पे उतार दें, उसके बाद वो गिन लें। जब बम चले गए, बिल्डिंग्स हिट हो गई, उन बिल्डिंग्स में जो हैं 1000 पाउंड का 1000 केजी का बॉम्ब है, उससे लोग बाग मरेंगे या नहीं मरेंगे? हम मरेंगे तो आपके पास आंकलन आप लगा लीजिए।
The Congress may have won Chhattisgarh in the state elections with its promise of a farm loan waiver, but it will have to do a lot more if the state is to side with the party when the general elections roll around, especially in light of the Modi government's announcement of a farmer income support mechanism. CNBC-TV18's Anshu Sharma finds out what the rural vote in Chhattisgarh will hinge upon.
In 2018 state election, Chhattisgarh threw up a surprise. People voted for change and mandated Congress party to form the government. Will the Congress party be second time lucky, or will BJP spring a surprise? This is Parswani village, about 54 kilometers from Raipur in Chhattisgarh's mineral-rich Raigad district. Most of the population here is dependent on agriculture for sustenance. And that's why the Congress party's promise of a farm loan waiver translated into votes. In Budget 2019, the BJP has countered Congress's farm loan waiver with a farmer income support scheme and is banking on the rapid implementation of its schemes like the Ayushman Bharat to get it the votes it needs. But the people here say there are still some sore spots that need to be addressed.
सेंटर की तो अनेक स्कीमें हैं जनहित के लिए, जैसे आपका प्रधानमंत्री आवास है, निश्चित ही वो भी प्रभाव डालेगा, और प्रधानमंत्री बीमा योजना, आयुष्मान भारत, ये सब योजनाएं जो हैं मतदाता के ऊपर प्रभाव पड़ेगा। वो मोदी सरकार किसानों के लिए और गरीबों के लिए अच्छा कर रही है, इसलिए ज़्यादा चेंजिंग मूड तो नहीं आ रहा है नज़र।
यही अपेक्षा होगा कि बच्चों को पढ़ा लिखा रहे हैं, उनको कुछ रोजगार मिले। 6,000 रुपये जो 5 एकड़ से माने छोटे किसानों को किए हैं, वो फायदा तो मिलेगा। माने
500 रुपये महीना काफ़ी होगा किसान के लिए, जिनके पास छोटी ज़मीन है उनके लिए काफ़ी होगा 500 रुपये महीने?
काफ़ी तो नहीं हो पाएगा, काफ़ी तो नहीं हो पाएगा, फिर भी सहायता मिल रहा है।
स्कूल के बच्चों को साइकिल वगैरह, खाना वगैरह, और आम जनता को घर वर सब दे रहा था, सिलेंडर मोबाइल बोल के। और ये सरकार के पहले ही बात सुने हैं तो किसान का तो फायदा हो गया और गरीब का कुछ नहीं हुआ।
Unemployment is not the only grouse. As we move deeper into the hinterland, various developmental issues become the key talking points. I'm here in Ektal village, which is in the district of Raigad. This particular village is known for Dokra art, and all that people here want are pakka houses, employment and some capital to boost their businesses for Dokra art.
आर्थिक परिस्थिति है उसको भी ध्यान दे, और हम लोग तो आज इतने दिन से बसे हैं तो हम लोगों का कुछ मतलब ठीक से कारोबार भी नहीं चल रहा है। 120 परिवार हम लोग यहाँ पे जीवन यापन करते थे और अपना डोकरा जो कास्ट है उसको काम करके अपना पेट पालन करते थे, लेकिन आज महंगे की वजह से हमारे जो शिल्पी भाई हैं 99% लोग तो काम करना बंद कर दे रहे हैं, क्योंकि इसमें खर्चा बहुत है, पूंजी नहीं है। सरकार तो बोलता है कि ऋण माफ़ करेंगे करके, और हमारा कोई खेती तो है नहीं। अब हम जो थोड़ा बहुत जो लिए हैं, मतलब बैंक से कुछ थोड़ा बहुत लिए हैं, वो भी माफ़ी नहीं होती।
हमारा जो रहन सहन है, हमारा जो परंपरा से जो हम लोग जो शिल्प कला में जुड़े हुए हैं, उसमें हमारा ना तो घर बना पा रहे हैं, ना कुछ कर नहीं पा रहे हैं। हमारा जो दुख सुख सुनेगा उसी को हम लोग वोट देंगे, हम लोगों को मकान देगा, हम लोगों का राय रोजगार चलाएगा, धंधा चलाएगा, और हमारे बाल बच्चों के लिए पढ़ाई लिखाई की आगवहन करेगा, तो उसी को सरकार बनाएंगे।
The message from rural Chhattisgarh is loud and clear. The party that pitches a strong plan of action to boost employment opportunities, build better civic infrastructure, shows the intent to deliver on income generation beyond just support schemes, will get the mandate for the next 5 years at the centre. In Chhattisgarh's Raigad district, this is Anshu Sharma.
Well, with that, it's time to wrap up this edition of After the Bell. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to CNBC TV18 Markets Today. Talk Back is up next. It will get you trade ready for tomorrow and take you through all the market action of the day. Stay right there.